This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Fantastic first hour already in the books. If you missed out on any part of it, you can go and check out wherever you get your podcast, Money Moves. Download it, like, rate, review, subscribe. If you're looking for some Sweet 16 thoughts, the entire hour full of those. Paul Stone, leader of the Circa College Hoops Challenge and defending champion, was with us, as was Matt Humans. All covered from tip to tail when it comes to the Sweet 16. We will get back to the Sweet 16 and the NCAA tournament coming up here in a little bit, about 30 minutes from now. 15 minutes from now, Chris Macero will join us as we will get his thoughts. One of a few handicappers, including myself, that are tied for third in the Circa College Hoops Challenge. Check out the standings up at vsin.com. But we do have action today in the association. It is a very, very big card in terms of games. In terms of games that matter or might be entertaining, that is another debate to be had. But we do have NBA action today. Let's start with the elephant in the room, and that is actually pretty fitting because that is the size of these point spreads that we're seeing in today's association. Atlanta is a 14-point favorite over the Memphis Grizzlies today with a total of 240.5. Orlando laying 12.5 with a total of 232.5. Oklahoma City is laying 16 on the road against the Philadelphia 76ers. Toronto, a 10.5-point favorite. Portland laying 14.5 on the second leg of a back-to-back at a third game in 4 nights. And the Clippers laying 13.5. By my count, that's about 6 teams that are laying double digits. You also have a team that is out there at 8.5 points on the road. That would be Houston. So we can put together the goofy money line parlay that is among these teams. You can include Oklahoma City and Philadelphia because the injury report, of course, is pretty poor for the Philadelphia 76ers. Let's just start there really quickly, as this is not the pure, hey, playoff team versus tanking team, because we have quite a few of those today. But injury report for the 76ers, as we know, no Joel Embiid, no Tyrese Maxey, no Kelly Oubre, no Paul George, who is still suspended as well. Thunder, though, have not been covering numbers. They're on an 11-game winning streak heading into today. Just 2-9 ATS over those 11 games. Zoom out a little bit further. They're 14-1 straight up, 6-9 against the spread over the last 15 games. 76ers have been staying inside of some pretty big numbers, but feel pretty confident that OKC should be able to get this done. No A.J. Mitchell for the Thunder. If anybody caught it, another brouhaha over the weekend where A.J. Mitchell gets kind of face mushed and decides to start going at it. Fell on a cameraman who kind of got folded in half. That was pretty poor, but Mitchell is suspended. Thunder, though, up from 15 to 16.5 here against the 76ers. Very strong money line option for you, obviously, and if you want to put together one of these parlays, that is probably going to be one of your top options. But the game at the top of everybody's mind, just because, of course, it is theater and it is the Los Angeles Lakers, are the Lakers on the road against the Detroit Pistons. Lakers come in having won 9 straight. They're 8-1 against the spread in those 9 games heading into this Monday night matchup. And the story here is Luka Doncic. Twofold. First off, Luka will play tonight, gets his 16th technical rescinded, so he will be available today against the Detroit Pistons. Over the course of this 9-game winning streak for the Los Angeles Lakers, Luka Doncic is averaging 40 points, 8.4 rebounds, 7.4 assists, shooting 49% from the floor and 40.3% from beyond the arc. So you throw this up, and it's the what am I missing special. Lakers just a 1.5-point favorite on the road against a team that does not have Cade Cunningham in the lineup. As we know, Cade, with the collapsed lung, is not going to be available for the foreseeable future. Now, they have played the Pistons 2 games without Cade Cunningham. The results, 2-0 straight up and against the spread. Having said that, the opponents at Washington and home versus Golden State. So you're probably not thinking that Detroit can come out and get things done without Cade because they have proven it up to this point. They've really played nobody. The Lakers, on the other hand, you give J.J. Redick credit for how well that they have played. They are a good team in the sense of their game plan. They're also adequate enough to take on opponents like the Detroit Pistons. And, of course, we've talked about this all throughout the season. Lakers against the bad teams. Pistons would be one of those that you feel relatively confident that's the case. We saw some line movement here. Some shops opened up as high as 3 in favor of the Lakers. We're back down to that 1.5-point range. Circa actually got to 1 briefly before getting back up to 1.5. I think there's a couple of reasons for the line move in favor of the Pistons. First off, it is the injury report for the Lakers. You do have some names that'll matter here. Rui Hachimura, Marcus Smart among those two, so that's going to matter. But on the other side, and this is building up to, I agree with our guy Zach Cohen, who was on Harvard Handicappers today and talked about this with the Lakers. He's been trying to take his shots at them. Obviously hasn't been working. It might be time to join the evil empire today. Isaiah Stewart is also out for the Detroit Pistons. So no Cade Cunningham, no Stewart. Seems like an odd situation here to just have to lay 1.5. Again, it's the what am I missing special. I think I'm willing to take it on the chin here. Understandably, it's not the best spot. You're on the road against the Pistons, but you're coming in off a day of rest. Yes, the Pistons have 2 days of rest, so a slight rest advantage there, but not enough, I think, to deter me from asking the Lakers, who have been incredible, by the way, in clutch games, to win a game that the market believes might be a clutch game, considering it's a 1.5-point spread. So Lakers minus 1.5, think it's a fair play. Get this winning streak out to 10-0 straight up, 9-1 against the spread. We'll see if they can get it done. And Luka's performance is obviously going to be front and center, considering he's come in here averaging over 40 points over his last few games. But Lakers have been a hot commodity. They've also been a hot topic in the group chat over at Hardwood Handicappers. And speaking of, if you've got a group chat full of hot takes, Cut was built for you. Cut, social betting platform that lets you bet directly against your friends and other users on basically anything. Sports, politics, pop culture, even personal bets. Every bet fully customizable and pre-funded, which means no more chasing someone down when they lose, no flaking, no excuses, just results. And unlike traditional betting apps, Cut, K-U-T-T, actually gives you cash back on every single bet you make, even against your friends. Now you can get a 15% deposit bonus on your first deposit when you use promo code VSIN, V-S-I-N. So go to cut.com, K-U-T-T.com, or download in the App Store. Use promo code VSIN. All right, let's take a look at a couple more of these games. The other one, so we had Matt Humans on earlier, and I have to say, we should be proud, Justin, of our legacy over there on VSiN Primetime, because we established VSiN Primetime Game of the Night. You made the production, it was our idea, and they still continue to do it. And I think that the VSiN Primetime Game of the Night, because I told Matt Humans it should be, is going to be the San Antonio Spurs on the road against the Miami Heat. Equal rest advantage here for both teams. 1 day of rest for both. The big question is going to be for San Antonio, who comes in having won 5 straight. They've only covered 2 of them. 10-1, though, straight up in their last 11. They've covered 6 of those games. Will Stephon Castle play today? He is questionable for San Antonio. Obviously a very big piece when you're talking about their ability to defend in the perimeter. He has been absolutely fantastic all year long. That's why you see this number open 5 and back down to 3.5. You also have some injury question marks, really just one for the Miami Heat, Norm Powell, whether or not he will play. Heat have lost their last 4. They've only covered 1 of those. They've been a little bit of a play against team here as of late. Go to vsin.com. You can check out Zach Cohen's work. But one of the things that is going to be worth mentioning here, I liked Zach's rationale, had a prop bet on Victor Wembanyama and the way that Wembanyama plays, especially when it comes to some of the shot blocks. Go check it out, but it's really good logic. But I do think San Antonio might be worth a look, especially if you can get Stephon Castle. Obviously, injury news is going to be part of this. You want to get the better of the number. Wait to see if Castle's going to be out there, unless he's been ruled out. I know we've been updating these every 15 minutes, which drives you nuts. But I think Miami, as we have seen, there was a time in which Miami was really starting to turn it on, and you thought that maybe this was going to be a team that could be pretty formidable. We talked about a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of days ago last week, the teams that were in that play-in spot, Miami, Orlando, Charlotte, how well they had been playing and how the top of the East, really like Detroit, New York, had maybe been scuffling a bit and that these teams were going to be in danger should they meet any of them. But since then, Miami's been really inconsistent. Defensive ratings for Miami over the last 3 games of 132, 134, 130.9. You can't really trust them, and they have been ugly. You talk about giving up over 130 points in consecutive games, give up 123 in a clutch time loss on the road against the Houston Rockets. Don't know if you can trust Miami, who at one point looked like a really solid defensive team, maybe among the best in the NBA. And they're still floating at 6th right now in non-garbage time defensive efficiency, but they have lost a little bit down the stretch in terms of their defensive tenacity. And here, against the San Antonio team that is playing as well as they are, can't really trust the way that Miami has been playing at this point to come in and really back them here. Now, we have a lot of big favorites today. One of them that I think at least is worth bringing up and actually deep diving into the game is Houston on the road against Chicago. So let's go there, because the Bulls, this is an interesting spot here for Chicago. We're sitting at 8.5. Total's 230.5. Those numbers courtesy of DraftKings. So shop around again and look around and see what we're going to have here. A lot of different names here on the injury report for the Bulls. Jaden Ivey's questionable. Anthony Simons is questionable. Jalen Smith. Gershon Yabusele's got a D next to his name. He's going to be doubtful. Rockets have won 2 straight, kind of overcoming that 4-6 straight up, 2-8 ATS slide that they were on over 10 games. By the way, this is the first time in a month that the Rockets have won consecutive games. February 23rd to the 26th, they had won 3 straight. That was the last time they'd won consecutive games. So it's kind of been a long month here for Houston. But the Bulls, no shots at our girl, Stormy Buonantony, okay? She's on her way across the country right now, or actually across the world. And so she probably won't hear me when I say, remember, we were talking about fate in Chicago. Well, the Bulls, they're 4-6 straight up, 7-3 against the spread in their last 10 games. They've been staying inside of some of these numbers. They've been very feisty. They also have a pretty good rest advantage here. They've been off for more than 3 days. These Rockets come in. Yes, they've had a day off, but it's the third game in 4 nights. We've seen the Rockets at times, not only with their half-court offense struggle, but on the road has not been the most beautiful thing that we have seen in terms of basketball. Holding strong at like 8.5, 8, so we haven't really seen any big moves here. Injury report's going to be very, very important, but do you think that maybe Chicago might be a little dangerous? And if you're talking about teams that might upend you, if you have a money line parlay or anything like that, just look out for Chicago. Now, watch, they're going to go out and get absolutely smoked, but the Bulls have been, that was the one team that I had circled that have been absolutely on the radar in terms of maybe being dangerous here. Now, the other short point spread doesn't mean it's going to be good basketball. Golden State on the road against Dallas. We'll hit this quick. Golden State right now about a 1.5 to a 2.5 point favorite, depending on where you shop. Total of 231.5. Steph Curry still sidelined with this injury. Pretty equal rest advantage, although the Warriors are playing their third game in 4 days here. Steph Curry's still out. Al Horford is out. DeAnthony Melton has a probable tag next to him. The names to watch here is going to be Moses Moody, who's questionable to play. Porzingis is probable. Since losing Steph Curry, though, Warriors 6-16 straight up, 7-15 against the spread. They have failed to cover by 3.6 points per game since Curry's been injured. And the Mavericks, they have not been a team that have been worth backing really at all. 2-12 straight up in their last 14 games, have covered just 4 of those contests over that stretch. This, on paper, is a close game. It is also a disgusting contest that I don't think many would like to watch in depth. But Warriors here getting bet down from 3 to about a 1.5 point spread. We'll keep an eye on that one. And we'll get to some of the later games as well. 2 really big favorites. Portland maybe not in the best spot. And the Clippers have an interesting game with an interesting injury report as well that we have to get to the bottom of. All right, when we come back, we'll get back to the Sweet 16. This is what we do. Chris Macero is going to join us, one of the competitors in the Circuit College Hoops Challenge. He's got some bets. He's got some leans. We'll talk about those. See what Chris thinks about what we just watched over the weekend as well. Hey, let me get your attention real quick, podcast listeners. It's March, which means the madness is officially upon us, and the folks at VSiN have really gone crazy with this one. I'm being told that for just $29.99, you can get unlimited access to VSiN Pro through May 1st. I'm talking picks through the tournament, public betting data for every single game, plus sharp tools, projections, articles, and more, which means every day you wait is an opportunity missed. Just click the link in the description to get started. It's March, baby. All right, now back to the show.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
All right, this has been all we've talked about here. It's been Upside in our conversation coming up with Chris Macero, brought to you by Upside. Download the free Upside app, earn real cash back every time you fill up. Use promo code SPORTS, 25 cents per, wow, I can talk here, folks. 25 cents back per gallon on your first tank. Check it out today. Promo code is SPORTS. Check out Upside. All right, we head out and welcome in one Chris Macero, who I sent an intimidating text message to yesterday. He and I both locked in terms of our records in the Circa College Hoops Challenge, both at 18, 14, and 1 apiece, tied for third with 2 others here, but all of us have something in common. We, again, are chasing down Paul Stone. Chris joins us on the Progressive Guest Line. I have presented to Matt Youmans a rule change. Paul Stone no longer allowed in the contest starting next year. He declined it, but what do you say?
You gotta give Paul some credit. He's always so humble when he comes on, such a nice gentleman. You know, meanwhile, he probably gets off the air and he's like, I got him again. But no, Paul's great. He's been hot. I had a really hot Friday, I believe. I was on fire. Saturday, okay. Yesterday, not so much. Couple of lousy picks yesterday. I had Texas Tech, never had a shot. I had Kentucky. They were up 7 until they weren't. So it's just the way it goes. I eked out a tie with Arizona.
Me too.
And I was texting a few people last night because I have some huge futures on Arizona, and I had some huge futures on Florida. And after Florida lost, I was texting a few people that said, if Arizona loses, do not contact me until May. So luckily they got the job done, and we've salvaged some of the futures. But the Florida game, I still can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah, so what'd you see here? Because there's a couple of things that stick out. Obviously, Ruben Chignello only has 1 shot attempt. Boogie Fland kind of disappears, only takes 6 shots, goes 0 of 3 from beyond the arc. Golden looked like he was kind of getting out coached here. What'd you watch?
Yeah, Golden definitely did get out coached, but I want to mention a couple things. It was one of those games Well, yesterday, all the money was coming in on Iowa. No one understood why. It was a very head-scratching game. I'll be a tinfoil hat guy for the moment. It's just one of those ones where, like, why is this money coming in? Everyone's betting Florida. You saw the bet percentages. And sure enough, the game tips off, and the referees are right away way too involved in the game. All of Florida's guys have 3 fouls. It seemed like immediately. Chinny Lou, like you mentioned, he was a non-factor at all. He had no points, 1 rebound or 1 assist, a steal, 4 fouls. He was never in the game. All their big guys had 3 fouls. It totally changed the way the game was played. And then the refs mentioned that one of the Iowa players, the kid who ended up hitting the game-winning shot, threw a punch, but it wasn't connected, so there was no technical. He wasn't kicked out of the game. Just some crazy officiating. It makes you shake your head. Why was the line moving so much as it did? It ended up closing at 8.5 in some spots, and all of a sudden Iowa just kind of has the advantage with the whistle. So. But I won't complain that much. I was biased, but Todd Golden saying that they were going to foul up too. Have you ever heard that strategy before? What was that defense? The Ole defense, and then to not even get a shot off with all those offensive weapons, to not even get a shot off at the end of the game. Yeah, Todd Golden, he went from way up here in my coaching ranks to, that was he almost fell off the face of the earth.
Todd, as I like to call him, the creep Golden. I think Humans goes with the stalker. Either way, power rating down for Golden. Let's spin this forward here for Iowa. I know this is not one of the plays, but you do have a lean in this direction, and I like him as well. Nebraska laying 1.5, totals 133.5. This seems short to me. Things like the market is kind of overreacting to a win for Iowa after we saw them beat Florida. But what do you make of what we're seeing here?
Yeah, I agree. I heard what Matt was saying. It's always good to probably fade a team off a massive win like that, beating the defending national champs. I just harken back to the game a couple of weeks ago when I had, Iowa +7. They blow a 11-point lead late in the second half. They end up losing by 7 in overtime. I just can't get that game out of my head. I mean, Ben McCollum is getting all this accolades for the last couple of wins. Big deal. You beat Clemson. You had Florida in foul trouble the whole game. Yeah, I'll give you some credit. You beat them. I get it. But, I mean, this team lost to Penn State and Maryland the last couple weeks of the season. They blew that lead to Nebraska, and I can't get that game out of my head. And I just think their offense is so stagnant. Like in the second half, it felt like they were just trying to do the 4 corners and get the clock to run. They end up getting some miracle shots off. Sometimes they go in, sometimes they don't. But I just think Nebraska, the way they're shooting the ball lately, really on fire from 3, 48% against a really good Vanderbilt defense. I think, like Humans mentioned, Nebraska's got too many weapons here. I don't like the way how Iowa plays with that. Slow it down, super slow, and they're not getting good shots. So the number is a little fishy. I thought Nebraska would be a little bit higher. I'd probably just play the money line. I think Nebraska gets it done.
Ooh, somebody told me a couple of minutes ago to avoid fishy lines. I don't know. Maybe we got to stay away from Nebraska. We'll see. That was Macero who told me that during the break. We're talking Lakers and Pistons. All right, let's talk about a couple of games that I do know that you like here. I always like to get differing opinions. You're going to have one of those. Let's talk about Michigan State taking on UConn. We talked to Humans about this earlier. He likes UConn. Michigan State, though, for you, correct?
Yeah, I haven't played it yet because I have a really good future to make the Final Four at 8-1. And I also have them at 50-1 to win the whole thing, which I just got before the tournament. I was just trying to massage some of my plays based on some other futures I had. And I just look back at UConn. I mean, they just, they beat UCLA, but without Bilodeau, that game was a close game. UCLA had the lead late. UConn is just not shooting the 3 well. 33% against UCLA, 20% versus Furman, 16% versus St. John's, 32% versus Georgetown. Solo ball looks like he's lost. Couldn't throw it in the ocean yesterday. I just feel like the line's moving in the wrong direction for me. I thought Michigan State was going to be the favorite. I like their defense. I like Izzo. And I feel like, Caribbean had the big game yesterday. Yeah, because Bilodeau wasn't in the game. So I think Michigan State defends the 2 really well. UConn's not shooting the 3. Give me Sparty plus 2.5.
All right, let's talk a couple of others here. Chris Macero again with us on the Progressive Guest Line. Competitor in the Circuit College Hoops Challenge. You can follow him up on X at Real Gauge. All right, let's talk St. John's and Duke. I don't know if I like this St. John's half-court offense, man. That looked really ugly against Kansas. I would assume Shire's going to pull some of the same stuff defensively and play off some guys. I like this game under the total, but you've got a side here between St. John's and Duke, correct?
Yeah, first bet I made yesterday, St. John's +7. I know we're at 6.5 now. I still like St. John's. I think the defensive effort has just really kicked up over the last few months of the season, especially the last few weeks. And I think this is a great matchup for Zubi Ejiofor against Boozer. Boozer is going to have a real grown man covering him the whole game. He's just been outstanding. I mean, I know Peterson caught a little bit of fire at the end of the game yesterday, but they held him to 5 of 15 shooting. He got most of his points at the free throw line, 8 for 10. I mean, St. John's had the clamps on Kansas the whole game. Kansas got a little bit of a hot streak in the middle of the second half. They made 6 straight baskets and 2 free throws to get them back in the game. And if you look at St. John's, they didn't really even play well, like we discussed and you guys were discussing earlier. The shooting has been just terrible. That first half was ugly to watch. But they're hanging their hat on defense. I like Patino in the coaching advantage. I like getting 7 points. I think St. John's can beat Duke. With all the injuries Duke has, their rotation is a little limited at the moment. And I think the fact that Boozer has to match up against Ejiofor is a really tough matchup for him, with as well as Zubi's been playing on the defensive end. I like St. John's plus the points. And I think they have a good chance to win this game.
Yeah, I would agree with all those points here. Out of all these games, though, I think the game that looks to me on paper like it might be the best of the round is going to be Texas and Purdue. This should be a ton of fun. We're looking at some 7s across the board, 6.5. Totals at 148.5 or 149. What do you like here?
So this was the second bet I made. I played over the total. Listen, my best bet of the second round of our tournament was Gonzaga. And the reason that was is because Texas does not defend the three-point line. They're like 250th against guarding the three. So what does Gonzaga do? Well, they just decided to let Graham Ike just be the hero all day. He became a black hole when he got the ball. He took 22 shots, 4 from 3. It was only 1 for 4. The rest of the team just never got involved. They had a few open looks early from 3, but they weren't making them. And then Ike just decided he was going to hold the ball the rest of the game. It just was a horrible strategy. I thought Mark Few coached a terrible game. You need to get up as many threes as possible against Texas because that's what they do the worst, defending them. And what do we have here? A Purdue team that shoots at 38.8% from 3. I feel like even though Purdue likes to play small, they're going to have a lot of open looks. And if Purdue's hitting their threes, this game could get up in a much higher scoring game than predicted. The total is only at 148 or 149, 148 and a half, 149. KenPom has this game at 156. So I made the bet when it first came out on Saturday night, and I added more yesterday. You could bet a little bit more on it. I just think this is a higher paced game. I like the fact that Purdue should have a bunch of wide open shots, and they are one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country. I'm going over in this game.
All right, I like it. Chris, before we get you out of here, so I don't bet the Lakers today?
Well, I have a pretty sharp guy. He texted me this morning. He said Lakers lock, and I go, wow, I was surprised that they were favored too. Pistons lock, and I go, I was surprised that the Lakers are favored. He sent me his ticket. He had +2.5, and now we're at +1.5. So I think he's on the right side. And as we said, if you see a fishy line, either stay away from it or bet the other way.
Yeah, Chris, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Our conversation with Chris, sponsored, of course, by Upside. Turn your gas purchases into real cash back with the free Upside app. Download Upside now. Use promo code SPORTS for 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill-up.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We are rolling along 30 minutes. Only left in the books. That's it. And then we're out of here. Coming up in 15, we'll have best bets for the day. One of those will be in the association. And let's get to that. We talked a little bit about the games today. We welcome in on the Progressive guest line. Special guests as we look ahead to the slate tonight and some big picture stuff. Mitch Lawrence is with us. SiriusXM NBA. Starting lineup at Mitch_Lawrence up on X. Mitch, we appreciate a couple of minutes. Hard not to start any conversation with the Los Angeles Lakers. This 9-game stretch that they are on has been incredible. More importantly, what Luka Doncic has been doing over the last 9 games has been absolutely mind-blowing. I don't even know how you ask the question. Like, what have you made of what Luka's done here? I don't think it's sustainable, but it seems like it's some of his best basketball we've seen over a 9 or a 10-game stretch.
Absolutely, but I think John, thanks for having me on. I think it coincides with the fact that very recently he picked up his 15th technical, and of course he picked up the 16th the other night. That has since been rescinded by the league. What a shock there. So he can play tonight. I'm sure everybody in Detroit is elated to get to see Luka in his one trip into Detroit. But I think that has a lot to do with it. his recent stretch, you talk to people who are around the Lakers, he doesn't say boo to the refs anymore. The season started off, you couldn't shut the guy up. He was constantly complaining. And now, obviously, when he's just on the verge of, being suspended for a game, he decides, I can't play. So I can't mess around with the refs. So I think for the key for the future is the Lakers have to keep reminding him, or maybe the Lakers should start the season, telling him you got 15 technicals on you and see how he reacts then, because he's been like a different person when it comes to his demeanor with his rapport with the referees. He's acting on his best behavior.
Has over this stretch that they've been on, has your opinion on them changed? Because one of the things that has changed in the actual numbers, this Austin Reeves, LeBron James, Luka Doncic trio, everybody was making a big deal how initially the net rating with those three was negative. According to Cleaning the Glass, they're now outscoring opponents by 7.5 points every 100 possessions. They've been very good together. LeBron has taken a step back. Has your opinion changed on what the ceiling of this team can be over this stretch that we have seen from them?
Well, I'm still thinking it's going to be very hard for them to make a deep run. And the reason being is right now they're in a situation where it's them, Minnesota, Denver, Houston. And, in the first round, if the Lakers have to play Minnesota, man, we saw what happened last year. They got crushed. And they've had problems with Denver. I know Denver is a terrible defensive team. But even still, you're looking at, and them facing the Rockets in the first round. That will be difficult. I like the way they're obviously playing. Luka, as you mentioned, the defense has been, much better. Ayton's in a nice stretch defensively. Marcus Smart still has a lot of dog in him. So defensively, that helps. LeBron's, and actually Luka, too, has been trying better defense. But I just don't know if they can, in the West, if they can make a deep run when you got, those teams immediately, and then they'd be up against Oklahoma City or San Antonio. So, we'll have to see. But right now, my God, every game that they've won here in the last four or five games, they've been underdogs in. So they've done a really nice job, and we'll see what they do in Detroit tonight.
Is this enough and this season as a whole, we should give them credit. I shouldn't just say this run, because the Lakers, like you said, they are competing for a top 3 seed in the Western Conference. Has this been enough that J.J. Redick would be considered heavily for Coach of the Year potentially?
I think he could be. I think there's no doubt that Joe Mazzulla has to be, because of what they did before they got Jason Tatum back. And obviously with J.J. Redick, it's very, very difficult coaching a guy like Luka Doncic, with everything he brings to the table, and you have to constantly remind him of, you have to play defense. You got to watch your P's and Q's with the refs. And then you're coaching LeBron, who turned 41, obviously, and now you have to hope that he embraces this third role behind Luka and behind Austin Reeves, and he's done that. I mean, LeBron now is basically in this stretch. What's he doing when at the offensive end? He's either converting dunks or layups. There's not a lot of bad shots, not a lot of outside shots, so he's deferring. So I got to give I give LeBron credit for embracing that role. Whoever thought that they could say that one day he'd be okay being a number 3, let alone being a number 2 guy. And you have to give J.J. Redick a lot of credit for what he's done there. And then defensively, they're buying in, as I said, Ayton, Smart make a difference. And it seems like everybody else is attuned to the fact that they have to start stopping people. I don't know how much that's going to carry over in the playoffs, but yeah, they're in a good spot right now.
Yeah, I keep saying about them that I don't think I would be surprised if they were to beat anybody in a best of 7, a singular best of 7. But winning 3 or 4 of those, I think, would be very hard for that team.
Yeah, I mean, look, are they going to make a run where all of a sudden they're going to challenge the 2 top teams? I mean, I think we're all expecting it's going to be Oklahoma City, San Antonio in some way, shape, or form for the Western Conference Finals. And these other teams are just not good enough based on what we've seen in the regular season. They've all got issues. They've all got really many more problems than the top 2 teams. But, hey, it's going to be, at this stage, and just looking at from watching LeBron James, he's not going to be, whether it's this year or next year, how many more years, this looks like his best chance to make a deep run. Not saying it's going to happen. Who knows what the Lakers are going to be next year? Who knows if he'll be on the team? Who knows if he's going to be at Golden State? See, you just don't know. So he's probably looking at it as he's got to make the most of it now because time's running out.
All right, Mitch Lawrence with us here, SiriusXM, NBA, Mad Dog Sports Radio as well. You mentioned the other team in the Western Conference that everybody is chasing outside of Oklahoma City, San Antonio, in action tonight in a really fun game on the road against Miami. 3.5-point favorites, totals 242.5. A questionable tag for Stephon Castle tonight, but what are you looking at here between these two?
Bam's going to have to score 83 for the Miami to win.
Yeah.
Think he can do that?
He said it was hard, right? He told us. Now you see how hard it is to score 80 the other day.
Well, I know he had 31, and they met a long time ago. Early in the regular season, he had 31. Yep. But right now the Spurs are rolling 15-1 in their last 16, and in the month of March, Victor's going for like 27, 11, and 4 blocks. And by the way, in the meeting against Miami earlier in the year, I'm sure you probably know this, Jonathan. Maybe the listeners don't. He had 27 points, 18 rebounds, 5 blocks, and 6 assists. In the Spurs, they only had a 6-point win, but I think they're a much better team, and I think they're much better. Miami's kind of hit the skids here. They're on a little bit of a losing streak. So I think it's going to be a tall order for Miami tonight. I don't think the only thing you really worry about in this situation is with the Spurs getting in last night into Miami, did they decide to hang out a little bit at the beach, or are they really focused on making this what they used to call a business trip? Those Spurs teams with Tim Duncan and all those guys used to say, hey, we're on a business trip. We're not going to mess around in South Beach. So we'll see what happens tonight. But the way the Victor's playing, he's on a pace. It's going to be probably SGA maybe to repeat as the MVP, but Victor's definitely got to be in the top 3. That is going to be hard the way he's playing now. So it's going to be tough for Miami to win this game.
Yeah, that was going to be my follow-up. You kind of answered it there because in terms of the betting odds, Luka Doncic has actually moved ahead of Victor Wembanyama for MVP. I don't think that's right. I think if you're looking at somebody that was going to sneak away with the MVP, I mean, Wembanyama is the best player on the second seed, Mitch, as you well know, who also led them to those victories against Oklahoma City. If someone was going to steal it, it would be Wembanyama, not Luka, correct?
Yeah, I'm baffled by how he would move ahead. I know he's in an unbelievable stretch here, but if you look at the whole season and you look at where the Spurs are, I mean, right now the Spurs have 18 losses and the Lakers have 25. And I know you can't just put it on one guy, but yeah, when you're looking at the MVP race, you tend to look at the one guy and where they are. So I would put SGA 1, I'd put Victor 2, and still, yeah, I'll put Luka 3. But I really think it's more of a 2-horse race because the top 2 teams are really the dominant teams throughout the year in the NBA this season.
All right, last 90 seconds with you, Mitch. Let's get you out of here on this. We've talked a lot about the Western Conference. In the East, we know about what's going on with Cade Cunningham and his collapsed lung. Celtics with Tatum back. Knicks, Cavaliers, Cavs have won 3 straight, 7 out of their last 10. What is your pecking order in our last 90 seconds of the Eastern Conference as it is currently constituted?
Well, I'm going to put Detroit first, but, there's an asterisk because of the Cade Cunningham thing. I just don't know how that's going to impact them going down the stretch and into the playoffs. I will pick, though, right now, I want to pick Boston because with Tatum back, they get back an MVP type of player, and you put him with the team and the way they've played this year, even though they might have had some rough spots here. Going into the playoffs, they've got the championship pedigree and an experience where Detroit hasn't won a playoff series yet in the Cade era. And then I would probably put, Knicks third, Cleveland fourth. I mean, that's it. It's a 4-horse race. But really, to me, it's going to probably be the Boston Invitational in the East because of what those guys have done in the past.
Well, I would have a hard time disagreeing with that. Mitch, we appreciate a couple minutes. Thanks, as always, for joining us here on the program, sir. You have a good one, all right?
John, thanks for having me. Talk to you later. See you.
Yep, Mitch Lawrence, SiriusXM NBA, Mad Dog Sports Radio. Check him out there. And remember, folks, brackets, they're for everybody, right? Mitch and I were just talking about that. He's got a bracket. He and I share a similar national champion. But this is for bettors. The Visa March Betting Challenge still going. Not too late to get in on the action. Yes, we're down to the Sweet 16. This round, you got to make 5 picks. Spreads or totals. Still plenty of prizes on the line, including $2,000 for the overall champion. And if you have a free Edge Boost account, every prize doubles. VSiN.com/contest. Get your picks in now. I want to follow up on something that Mitch told us there about in the association. Get the best bets and more before we hand it off to Mitch and Paul on Follow the Money.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We've all got our group chats. They got opinions. Now put your money where your mouth is. Cut is the social betting platform that lets you bet directly against your friends and other users on sports, politics, pop culture, even personal bets. Every bet fully customizable and pre-funded. Nobody flakes when they lose. Plus, you get cash back on every single bet that you make. Use promo code VSIN, VSIN. Get 15% deposit bonus on your first deposit. Download Cut today at KUTT.com or on the App Store and use promo code VSIN. We do like to check in with everybody at BJVT if you want to send anything at. Let's see. Steve Strange asks, where's Stormy? Well, Steve, I hope you're enjoying the show. I hope that's not a dear God, where's Stormy? Stormy is traveling the world. She will not be here for a little bit. We will, I think, try to put together a Where in the World is Stormy Buonantony montage for you on a daily basis. But she is going to Japan, I think, is where the first stop is. We'll find out where that is. Matthew says, how is it possible that you're the very best at VSiN when you're by yourself, yet the absolute worst with somebody else? I don't know. I'm not entirely sure how that works, but I appreciate the fact that you think that I am the very best. Maybe we'll have to fix things as we talk with Stormy about it. Hey, man, we appreciate you watching. And I did not get Ron Burgundy by that, by the way. I did know that that was coming. So I read that with the full knowledge that that tweet was somewhat mean, but also somewhat nice. So I'm just going to throw that out there. We appreciate you, Matthew. Tom Collins, great appearance by Mr. Lawrence. Thanks for your insights. Will Luka ever get a 16th technical that is not reversed? Tom, I think that will happen. I do think that will happen. My guys in the desert, Scotty B, Mitch Johnson, Coach of the Year. That is actually a really interesting conversation to be had. So we talked about this Mitch Lawrence, and it does tie into what I wanted to follow up on with Mitch, as you brought up a couple of things here. But the first is for Coach of the Year, the way that it is being priced right now, J.B. Bickerstaff at -120, Joe Mazzulla at +105, and then Mitch Johnson at 12-1. Then you get like the 30-1s, Charles Lee's, Jordan Ott, 50, Dagnall at 200. The pricing is always really interesting when it comes to awards. And we say this all the time of, hey, look, in theory, could you be sitting on something that has some value and a guy has a better shot at winning an award or is going to get more votes, first place votes, and thus be in a position to potentially win this more than what 12-1 would represent? I would say so. I mean, if you look at what the job Mitch Johnson has done, if I was going to tell you before the season started that the San Antonio Spurs were going to be in a position to be the 2 seed, have an outside shot at catching up with the 1 seed in the Oklahoma City Thunder, have the record that they do against the Oklahoma City Thunder, then I think a lot of people would probably say, yeah, man, he's probably going to be Coach of the Year. He probably shouldn't be 12-1. Probably should be more like 8 or 9 or even 7-1. The problem is, realistically, and I do think that Joe Mazzulla is, and we've talked about this a ton, for those who were with us, about a month ago, we had Joe Mazzulla at 8-1 to win Coach of the Year. And the point here being is that I think Mazzulla is going to be the odds-on favorite very soon. Obviously, Bickerstaff, it's not anything that he can control, but with Cade Cunningham not playing, and now, of course, potentially the slide starting. We'll see tonight if it begins against the Los Angeles Lakers. But I do think Mazzulla is going to be in position to be the Coach of the Year. He did a great job. Again, to go back to the exercise of if I told you before the season started that this could be the 2 seed in the Eastern Conference and that Jason Tatum wasn't going to join this team until March, you would think that Mazzulla did a brilliant job, and that's exactly what he's done. And I think he's got a lot of respect of a lot of people around the league, including reporters, and that's going to be something that I think is going to carry him toward the award. But the other thing, and in the same vein, I completely agree with Mitch here on MVP. I shouldn't say I have no idea why Luka Doncic would leap Victor Wembanyama. The answer is very easy. Luka Doncic plays for the Lakers, and he's a very popular player. And when he's playing the way that he is, I'm sure bets come in, and you want to cut down the liability to an extent, so you're going to move Luka as much as you can. But I can say, I think without a doubt, that Victor Wembanyama has a better chance to win Most Valuable Player than Luka Doncic does. There is no doubt in my mind that that is a true statement. And yet he's 22-1. So again, in theory, we get value on Victor Wembanyama at 22-1 to win MVP. You're getting 22-1 on a guy who is at worst going to finish second in this race. But do you want to bet it? I mean, okay, cool. He's going to finish with, I don't know, more first-place votes than Luka, maybe more second-place votes than Luka, but he's still going to lose the award to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, which leads me to, ad nauseum, the same things I say all the time, which is we need different markets around MVP. You have a -1,000 favorite in this market right now. I would love for something different, some variety, some sort of over-under. A Victor Wembanyama versus Luka Doncic prop in MVP market, who finishes ahead of who on the ballot, that would be one that is a ton of fun to bet into. And by the way, if it's going to get priced like this, I mean, come on now. That is a play on Victor Wembanyama, but this is going to be Shea's award to lose at this point right now. I think we all know that. But following up on that with what Mitch was talking about, it does seem like from an MVP standpoint, it is kind of crazy to have Doncic leap this high. But again, he is coming in over his last 9 games, averaging over 40 points per game. He has been absolutely fantastic, which leads us into our best bets for the day. Let's take a look at the association first. I don't want to go out of order, though. I know that Stormy's not here. We don't want to act, out of pocket. So let's see if we get these up because I don't want to mess our crew up. Our crew does a wonderful job. And we'll start with college basketball instead because you guys have done hard work and we don't want to ruin that, unlike our co-host that usually does. Texas, first up, +7 in this Sweet 16 matchup. I will fall, I think, maybe for the low-hanging fruit. This is probably going to be a pretty popular side, invoking the Circa College Hoops Challenge that we're all in. I would assume that Texas is going to be one of the more popular selections, depending on what number we get in the contest, that is. But took 7 with Texas. We'll see if it starts to dip down any further. But we talked to Chris Macero about this game. He had a thought on the total, which I will get to here in a second and follow up because he had a really interesting nugget about that. And we talked to Matt Humans about this as well. He got a much better number than what 7 is. I think he's sitting on 8 if I remember correctly. But I like what Texas brings to the table. I like what they can do on offense. They've got enough size to deal with anything down low, protect the rim, alter shots. This is a team that is well coached, as we saw in that game against Gonzaga. Brilliant point by Macero, too, where you were watching the Bulldogs against Texas and wondering why in the world do you keep just operating with Graham Ike when you can maybe do something here along the perimeter and hit some shots. Maybe we see that from Purdue as well, but this Texas team, with their ability to defend along the perimeter, the upside in terms of their shot making, I think I've watched Purdue enough to say that they do have some trouble with athleticism on the perimeter and some shot making that Texas brings to the table. And Miller, of course, has been a fantastic coach in this tournament, as we know. Again, save it for next year, 10-0 ATS in the round of 32, whatever that means now after last week. But I think Texas catching 7, a number definitely worth playing here. We'll see where the number eventually goes. It's 7 here at Circa, shaded to the dog side. Next up, Duke, St. John's. We've talked a lot about this game, but we did not talk about my angle here too much. St. John's, Duke, under 142.5. This might be the low-hanging fruit here as well. But I watched both of these teams, and especially St. John's. Duke, I would assume, is going to play a very similar type of defense that Kansas did this last round, which was playing off shooters, allowing them to take open shots. St. John's can't shoot. They're shooting 32% from beyond the arc, and that's on open looks where guys really aren't even contesting them. It really clogs up the paint, doesn't allow them to operate the way that they want to here. I think that this is going to be a pretty ugly game. And on the flip side, I do trust Rick Pitino's defense. They have been absolutely incredible. We watched the game against Kansas. Kansas couldn't even inbound the ball against this pressure that St. John's faces. And with a little bit of a thin backcourt for Duke, I think you're going to face some similar situations here. I think that leads to a pretty ugly game, akin to what we just watched between Kansas and St. John's as well. I think we're going to get under the total here. It might be pretty helter-skelter, up-tempo, going up and down the floor, but I think the efficiency is not going to be there for either team. So we'll go under 142.5 with St. John's and Duke. And then in the NBA, we'll add it. It is the fishy line. Chris Macero told me, first off, you got a sharp guy that likes Detroit, and if it's fishy, you stay away from it. You bet the other side will fall for the trap. Lakers, -1.5 on the road against the Pistons, obviously without Cade Cunningham. The what am I missing special? It's only 1.5 here against the Pistons. They've won 9 straight. They've covered 8 of those. Doncic is averaging 40 points. He gets the tech rescinded because they want him to go out there and win the game. Lakers have been great in clutch time games so far this year. And if they get another one here, you got to trust that a team that's going to have the ability to make shots in those situations and have the shot creators that they do is going to pay off. So we'll go with the Lakers -1.5 for the 3 games today. Really quickly, for those who are morbidly curious, if you put together the big favorites today, so Thunder, Magic, Hawks, Rockets, Raptors, Blazers, and Clippers, these are all the big favorites of the day. Rockets 8.5-point favorite. That would pay you +157 on a paltry 7-leg money line parlay. So what could go wrong? We'll call the shot, though, and we will say that probably the Bulls are the one that ruin it. Although I will say the Raptors, Jazz aren't really playing anybody, but on the road, really poor scheduling spot. We haven't really talked a lot about this game. Toronto, of course, coming in here in a pretty tough situation. Second leg of a back-to-back, third game in 4 nights. And yet, no Keontae George, no Lauri Markkanen. We know how short this Jazz team has been. And they're 3-13 straight up, 6-10 against the spread. They have actually covered by a half point per game. That's their spread differential. But I don't know if you want to trust Utah to pull this upset off. But it is a very poor scheduling spot for the Toronto Raptors, who have lost their last 2 games heading into Monday night. All right, a reminder, go to vsin.com. Check out everything we have to offer. The Circuit College Hoops Challenge is fantastic. You guys can sign up for the March Bracket Contest as well. That is still live for the Sweet 16. So make sure you get in on that. Sign up for the newsletter. And please, like, rate, review, subscribe. Money Moves. Coming up next, Follow the Money. They'll take you on for the next 3 hours, heading into VSiN primetime, our old stomping grounds. Game of the night, Spurs and Heat. Cashing out. We'll take you from there. We'll see you tomorrow here on Money Moves.